So do you want Brenner on your server? How about 20? 100 maybe? Well, the first thing you need is a good location. I'm going to use this set of warehouses down in C3. So once I've got a good spot, I'm going to go ahead and press Control C to get my location. And if I press T to open up the chat, I can paste it here to confirm that I did copy it. That's very important. And like my last videos, I'm using DB-Lite, SQL-Lite, one of those. And I'm going to open up my database. I'll have some links in the description, and that's going to help you find your own database. So once you have your database open, we're going to find the table that is called Global Encounter Manager. And we just want to make sure that we have a record in here. ID of 1, map of 4, results may vary. And then we're going to head over to the Global Encounter Manager for rogue characters. Inside of here, you can see we have a couple of values that we can change. And you might see some things in here, you might not. It depends on what was around you the last time the server saved. It's not necessary because we're going to add our own value using this button right here. And this causes a window to pop up to add a new record. Now our ID just comes next in line as to what you see here on the left. And our Global Encounter Manager ID should be whatever it was in that last table we just checked. Mine's a 1. Now let's take a look at all this information. Let's start off with the character class. For Brenner, you're going to have to type this in exactly. We're going to go with game, conz files, characters, NPCs, creature, and then you want to put Brenner and then BP underscore Brenner dot BP underscore Brenner underscore capital C. Now that you have the creature class set, we're going to skip over the location for now, and we're going to go to the character data. We're just going to type in blob, and then the preset type, we're going to go with encounter dot preset type dot zombie. And this is mainly to keep the values filled. I don't think they hold any relationship to what actually controls the Brenner. Now, if you remember, we copied our coordinates from earlier. We're going to actually paste that over here, and we're going to dissect this into our X, Y, Z, and our yaw values. So I'm just going to highlight the X value and press Control X to cut it. I'm going to highlight the Y value, Control X to cut it. I'm going to highlight the Z value, Control X to cut it. And then lastly, I want the yaw value, and I'm going to cut that with Control X. From here, I can press the Windows key and V and pull up my clipboard, and I'm just going to paste each value in. The yaw, the Z, the Y, and the X. And with all that information put into the system, we can write our changes and load up our game. And as you can see, now that we're in the game, we've got a Brenner. Might as well set myself to Immortal just for some tests. And don't be afraid if he slides down for the first few seconds. It seems like Brenner always does this, even in the real bunkers. Man, it's like a whole different beast out here in the real world. Let's change the lighting a bit so we can actually see this guy. Yep, still ugly. Now, if you watch my content, you know I like to run a few tests on these kind of things, and I spawned some NPCs, and it seemed like he ignored them all. He wasn't worried about me. He wasn't worried about them, and that is until I got a little bit closer, and finally he awoke to attack me. Still didn't care about the NPCs that were hitting him. They were actually so close they started fighting each other. Dummies. Now when I put myself in drone mode, that's when the Brenner finally woke up and started kicking these dudes' ass. And that's when I found out that the NPCs do not take flame damage. I've noticed this with the sentries, and now I've noticed this with the Brenner as well. So what's the most logical choice? Let's spawn some real NPCs. Let's see if they can do any damage to this one dude. For shits and giggles, I spawned in a bunch of NPCs here, and that's when I got a really crazy idea. What if I went back in the editor and turned them all into Brenners? So that's what I did. Reloaded the database. I saw all the values for the NPCs. I didn't have to change their locations or anything like that. I just needed to copy the value for Brenner, highlight all of the records that I wanted to change, press Control V, and rewrote my changes. This is ridiculous. All those NPCs now just turned into Brenners. Let's give them something to fight. Jeez, how do they survive that? You got half the Brenners using flamethrowers, half of them using their punch attacks. I've noticed they got a kick too. Let's throw 100 more NPCs. Let's just see how this goes. Maybe I can use some of this for a thumbnail. And for the hell of it, I spawned in some of your favorite circus bears that love to stack on top of each other. And it was really interesting to see the Brenners actually stopped what they were doing in some cases to actually chase these bears. I mean, they put a hurting on these bears. Trapping them in the corners, kicking them while they're down. Even had one of the bears pass out in fear. I thought he was dead until he got back up. He's like, nah, I'm good. And because I needed to, I turned a whole bunch more NPCs into Brenners. Now we're talking. Really start some shit. Spawned in a few more NPCs to get them active, and that crashed the game. Maybe that was too many. I even died in the process when I tried to join back in the game. I don't know how that happened. That was a drone. Anyways, time to let them out in the wild, and look at those flames go. I'm starting to think this is a big mistake. But I did have some more things I wanted to test here. I did want to try and see if I could spawn in a Rager or some kind of vehicle and try to run these dudes over. It seems like with NPCs and puppets, we always go through them. So what's the worst that can happen, right? Wrong. So wrong. Turns out they're more powerful than the truck. And before the health was even gone, this thing was down to a frame. We lost it all on the inside. So my next thought was, what about some base building? Can we use these elements to slow them down? Slow them down, yeah. It looks like it gets them stuck if they're inside, but that's not really logical, is it? That's not going to help me out in a real situation. And I don't know if base building elements are just immune to fire. It seemed like none of that stuff took damage. I spawned in some wolf wagons, but I didn't really get an opportunity to use them. Loaded up some infinite ammo and some rocket launchers. I did get to use a wolf wagon, kind of like a in and out situation, but quickly lost control of the area. I don't know what I would do if I had this many unkillable creatures after me. I'm guessing when they stretch out their arms, they're actually taking some kind of damage, or that must be the moment that they're dropping the blood on the ground, the blood you can collect with the syringes. I'm not quite sure. But if you're looking for a good way to taunt some people on your servers, I think this is it. Just keep in mind with this particular method, they do despawn like any other NPCs would if you get too far away from them. But I am working to see if there's a way I can get that to remain. So now if you do want to see more like this, maybe try a subscription. I want to give that special shout out to my members. I'll see you guys next time.